Good evening, and welcome to the Hidden Gems podcast. I am your host, Deanna Bradley. Now, today's segment, we're going to cover some sensitive topics, so I want to put a disclaimer out right now. Nothing to worry about, but we just want you to know that some of the topics that's going to be discussed tonight, it will be a little sensitive in nature. So, with no further ado, my first person up, Miss Arry McNeill. You want to introduce yourself to the people and let us know what's going on with you, lady?
My name is Arry McNeill, and I am a mother, an author, a pastor's wife, a community activist. My organization is God-Style Outreach, gun violence awareness and mental health in youth. We do a lot of community work. I'm also a part of Every Town for Gun Safety. It's a national organization for gun safety, gun violence victims, in honor of my son as well. My ministry that we're a part of, me and my husband, is Latter-day Rain Ministries in Fayetteville, North Carolina. He's the pastor, and my husband.
All right, absolutely. Well, since you mentioned the pastor and the husband, he's here with us as well. Would you like to say hello to the people?
Yes. Hello to everybody. My name is Pastor William McNeill. I'm the pastor of Latter-day Rain Ministries, and I am elated to be here this afternoon.
Awesome. It is great to have the two of you here, so we're going to get down to it. Miss McNeill, you wrote a book.
Yes.
Okay. And I had the honor and the privilege of actually going in and reading this book, so I'm going to pull excerpts from your book, and I'll have you to expound just a little bit to our audience on certain things that I thought would be most effective. Is that okay?
That's okay. Yes.
All right, so the beginning. Motherly love. You said my mom was a single parent. She worked hard to make sure we had the main necessities to survive, but one of the major things she lacked was showing us that motherly love that girls so desperately need, especially when there is only one parent there to give it. She thought that as long as she is giving, the financial part of it was good enough. She also had her nightlife as well. Talk to us a little bit about that. What did you mean by that little excerpt alone?
Well, as I wrote about the life of me and my sister being raised by a single mom. At the time, I didn't realize you can't give what you don't have. So as learning, she wasn't giving it, so she didn't know how to give it to us. So at some point in her life, her mother didn't know how to give her love, so she didn't really know how to give it to us in the right, correct manner where it was healthy for us. So just knowing that she would go to work, do her thing. As you know, she was, as I wrote in my book, she was a functional alcoholic, but she would go to work. She would go to work faithfully, get off. Sometimes we wouldn't see her. She would go like the bingo. On the weekends, she would do spade. We would have spade games from Friday to Sunday. And so it was I was with my dad, my granddad, and my grandmom, and me and my sister would, most of the time, he'd pick us up from school. And we wouldn't see our mom. Sometimes a couple days, sometimes she'd come get us that night. But it was, back and forth. So just as a little girl at that time, you want to be with your mom. You want, absolutely. Mommy, I love you, Mom. I said it to her. She would say it, but you know how most moms are always saying, hey, babe, how was your day? I miss you, I love you. We didn't get that.
Wow.
From her. So it was like, as that opens a door for trauma and not even realizing that's rejection, emotional, problems. So it's so much that stemmed in that as now as an adult, I realized that, and I'm like, wow. And I was so angry with her. It was like, why don't she love me? Why don't she treat me like that? Why does she treat my sister better than me? But then my grandma, she was the same way. She was mean. And so she was like, it was that funny, that favoritism. So that started with her and her brothers. My grandma favored her brothers more than her. So now my mom's doing it to us.
Wow. So stop right there. Mm-hmm. Let me kind of take you back just a little bit. Mm-hmm. Touch on Dad. What was Dad like?
He wasn't in the picture. I didn't meet my dad until I was almost a teenager, and I met him, which will be the weirdest way. He picked us up from church one day. I was with my granddad, my dad, as I call my dad, that raised us, and they came and picked us up one day from church. And my mom got in the car. I'm like, okay, who is this man? Mind you, I looked just like him, but I didn't know that was my dad. That was my first time meeting him. So she picked us up from church, and she was like, I just want you, this is your dad. I was like, oh, okay. Like, how do you introduce, he just come to pick me up one day. And that's how I met my dad.
Oh, absolutely. So I want to go back to your book. Okay. You said around the age of 7 or 8, so I'm assuming that there was a break between you and your mom at some point in time. You had gone to stay with your dad. Is that accurate?
With my
your grandmother. Okay. So there was a break from mom. But then all of a sudden, out the blue, around the age of 7 or 8, your biological mom decided to move to Fayetteville as well, and she wanted to get you back. How did that affect you?
It affected me a lot because we was in structure. We was in a structured home, and my dad was, strong in the church. He was the deacon of a church. He did stuff. We went to church a lot. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They taught us different things. So coming from that, when we always have 2 parents in the home, and they taught us everything, they teaching us everything, they doing what the normal life as a child should be. Now we're back with our mom. We're with our mom, and so it was.
So as you guys can tell, this is a sensitive topic, and we're getting ready to get into an area where she's gonna speak about some things that happened to her. But the overall message is, and what we're covering on this episode is life after incarceration. So I want you to think about that as we move forward. And I'm going to pull from the chapter in your book entitled Stolen Innocence. I remember my first encounter with the devil. And then the next header in your book is Stolen Innocence. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay, we're gonna start with the encounter with the devil. That's when I was back at my mom's house, and at that night they was having a big old party, and I was in the bed, and I was just being a kid where it's dark. My sister in her bed, I'm in my bed, and be quiet, y'all quit talking in there and go to bed. And I'm like, I can't sleep. Y'all in there partying, cussing, drinking. So just doing what little kids, we create imaginary, just talking and laughing and joking. And next thing you know, I'm laying there and I turn around and I see this figurine, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like, oh my God. And it scared me, and I was like, you rub your eyes like, well, maybe I'm just tired. And I turn around and I see it again, and it's just staring at me. And then I did it again. I shook. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I turned around and it was gone. And I said, okay, oh my gosh. So it just little things like that, as you get older and you start saying, okay, this was why this happened. This is why I saw that. That was the devil there letting me know I got my eyes on you. I said, he must have saw purpose before I even knew I had purpose.
And see, also what I get from that too is that those things that we don't readily understand, those are the things that we're most fearful of. So if I can scare you early on, it will cause you to close your eyes and shut your mouth where you won't share that story out of fear. So that's what I got from there. Now you go in and you talk about the spirit of perversion and lust. And you pull, I love the quote by Jasmine Scurlock where she says, you can't heal what you conceal. Where does that come from? And what do you mean by concealing? What were you hiding? What happened? If you don't mind sharing with us.
The fact of what happened to me, being molested, being raped, and I was an adult whenever I went to see her speak, and she said that, and that just blessed me. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, that is the truth. If I keep my mouth closed and conceal the things that have happened to me, how can I heal? I'm gonna have to talk about this stuff. I'm gonna have to share this stuff. I'm gonna have to talk to a therapist. I'm gonna have to share it with the world. I'm gonna have to share what happened to me in order for me to heal. I'm gonna have to open up and get it out, because that's torture when
Absolutely.
You're holding something that happened to you, even as a little child. If you don't share it or tell nobody how you really feel, even though my mom didn't believe me, I still had to share it with somebody and get it out because it hurt me.
And I can honestly say that when I read that, and I know you shared that area of your testimony at the function that we were at together, and it triggered me as a mom that how can you deny truth? And as a result of that, you talked about how your life spiraled out of control. Can you share just a little bit of that? Because we really don't have the time for you to go in detail, because this is something that needs to be shared for all of you young people, and even those of us that are older. We will have those times where everything within us, we're embarrassed by that. We're ashamed of it. And then when we do share what has happened or what we've seen, people, the most endearing people, the ones that we trust the most, are the ones that sometimes will shut us down the fastest. And that will cause a distrust moving forward in life. So Ms. McNeill, can you kind of share how that affected your life moving forward after the denial of the truth?
Of course, it made me concealed, and like, what do I do now? I really can't. If my mom don't believe me, I really can't trust nobody. I should be able to tell my mom anything, especially something that horrific that happened to. I'm your baby, and I'm telling you something that happened. So now, if my mom don't believe me, and she's treating me like that, and she's saying, "Oh, you just fast," or you this, you that, then you already get the perception that's how everybody's going to react to what happened to me. And so then I was like, oh well, what's the use? I just might as well just do whatever. She ain't gonna believe me. She don't care. And so when you get that mindset of my mom don't care, you start acting out. That's the only thing your behavior.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so let's move forward just a little bit. The incarceration. Talk a little bit about that. How did we get there?
We got there because of the brokenness. We got there because of the trauma as a child. And if my mom don't love me, then if anybody love me, if he say he loved me, that means he loved me. I don't care if he hit me or beat me, he loved me. So I went through a lot of abusive relationships. I went through a lot of verbal, physical, a lot of unhealthy relationships. And so by the time I get, even with my children's father, because by then I got to that point I'd already had children, and just going through life of brokenness, trying to find myself, trying to figure out who I am now with all this pain in me. I'm a little girl being an adult. Now the little broken little girl now I'm a mom, being a broken little girl and a mom. And now I'm a broken little girl and a mom trying to be a woman, trying to figure myself out, because my mom didn't give me all the tools. The people around me had to help me. My dad had to help me. God put people in my life and in my path to help me get to each path that he had planted out for me. And I'm so thankful for that. So she didn't really do the things that I expected her to do. So now I'm like, now I done got up with this guy, and I'm like, it was a very toxic relationship, and nobody in my family liked him. And I was just like, oh well, he gives me attention. I'm at that age, I'm in that life. Women, we get to that place when we don't know what true love is and real love is, what healthy love is, what bad love is. And he just loving us. We're gonna stay there. and like, well, I can fix him. Well, if I just do this, and if I just stay, and if I just try this, it'll work. If I just, so now we're bargaining with ourselves on how to make this relationship work, how to make us feel better. Even though he treats us like trash, we're trying to bargain ourselves and pick ourselves up. Well, this is this. And the relationship just got toxic. He was very unfaithful. And it was just, we fought all the time, and I would leave, he would leave, and then it just got bad. And then that day, when it just got really bad, I had caught him with another girl, and it just was like, we all out there fighting, and it just turned, everything just turned left field. And he ended up getting harmed, and they came and locked me up in front of my babies. And I asked them, I was like, I just asked the police, I said, please don't handcuff me in front of my children. And they was like, I was just a prisoner, whatever they labeled me at that time, and they locked me up, and I went, and I was just like, oh my God, my dad is going to kill me. Wow. That's what I was thinking. I was like, my dad is going to kill me. Like, Lord, what have I done? And I got up, and I was like, I had a feeling like something was going to happen, because I said, y'all, I talked to my babies. They was young. Then I told them what I had done something wrong, and I'm going to have to go away for a while. And I kind of prep, kind of clean the house, and I made some phone calls to my family. I said, hey, I just let you know I'm going to need you. I did something bad, and I need help. And so got that together. And I went, and fast forward, as I was incarcerated, I seen one of the ladies that went to my dad's church, and I was like, oh my God, that's Sister so-and-so. She's gonna tell my dad. Oh my God. Oh. And I just had a meltdown, but she did not mistreat me. She talked to me, and she said, I know you done something bad, but it's okay. And God still loves you.
Absolutely. And
she talked to me, and she led me back. She led me back to Christ, and she asked me some questions, read the word to me. And then after that, I went into the one of the sessions, and the lady that was doing the session, actually, it stopped in the middle of the session and prophesied to me in the middle of the session. And she said, God said, this is the last time. This is the last time. God said, if you do this, he said, if you do it my way. If you put me first, put you second, and your kids, and keep me first, and do things in this order, you will not fall again. And he gave me some other instructions and told me what he was going to do. I went back in there. I was like, oh my God. I was a piece of cake. Then I was like, oh my God, I melted.
But the beauty out of all of this, you still held on to that side of you that understood that what I'm doing is not acceptable.
It's not acceptable.
And because you held on to that, even when people came at you and said, you should do better, you weren't bitter about the situation. It's almost like, I know how I got here. And I understand that if I keep going this way, it's not gonna end well.
Yes.
And as a result, God was able to approach you with a way, because sometimes, and we have to be careful, those of us who are believers, how we approach a situation. Because when a person is in trouble and they are lost, you already see that they're spiraling out of control. It's how you approach them that will make the difference. The word is wonderful. It is beautiful. We can all find ourselves in it. But it's how you demonstrate that word that will make the difference on whether or not that person is willing to grab hold to what you're saying or turn away from it. So we have to remember those things. Amen. And I'm not trying to preach. That's not happening. But I love this dynamic with you. That even through your rough times, you still had that. Where did that come from?
Foundation. My dad, I thank God for my dad. He kept us in church, and he always prayed with us, and he instilled that in us about keeping, loving God and doing right. And so it was the foundation. Even though I strayed away from what was right, God still had a plan for me.
Oh, yes.
So I thank God that he had a plan, that even though I deviated from the plan, that he still didn't allow the plan to fall through. Even when I was in going through the abuse and the brokenness and the hurt and the trauma, and I was angry. Don't get me wrong, I wasn't bitter, but I was angry because I just wanted to be loved. I wanted to be treated right. So in the process of me always giving what I wanted, sometimes you get hurt.
Absolutely.
So it's just, and not even realizing I'm a mess. And I had told my I said, I was a hot mess back in the day. I said, I was a hot mess. And that's why I told my therapist, I said, I was a hot mess. She told me, girl, you was crazy. I said, no, because you don't realize until now you go through all this stuff, and then you're going through your healing process, and you look back and you're like, oh my God. Like, so many people give up in the middle.
Absolutely.
They give up in the middle.
Oh my goodness, we could carry this conversation on, because I so love talking to you, because you just have this testimony that not all of us can give. And as we take a look at society today, you're that voice that young people need to hear, because society is trying to steer them in a totally different direction.
That's right.
And so we're going to fast forward to 2023, because I know, even though you've suffered losses, and even with that, you still, this gentleman found his good thing.
Yes.
So we gonna talk to Pastor McNeill right fast, and I want you to talk about how she shared everything with you. How did you know that she was the one that God had for you?
Well, she didn't actually share that with me. I actually proofread the book.
Oh, nice.
And so when I read the book, she did share some of the story with me, but for the most part, I found out most of it in the book. And so it was a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that when I prayed for a wife, I knew what I wanted.
Absolutely.
And so I met her, and I didn't know then that she was my wife. I was preaching one Sunday, and she came in, and she was with a visiting church. And down through the days, I reached out to her pastor, and asked her, could he get my phone number to her? And so we took it from there. We met, talked, and we just took it slow.
Absolutely.
I met her. I knew that she had a lot of potential. I knew that she needed a lot spiritually and naturally. And so I think I took the time and kind of worked with her.
And the beautiful thing that I love that you said is, I knew that she needed a lot spiritually.
Yes.
And a lot of times we think that relationships are built on what we can get financially, materialistically, but we forget about the emotional support, the spiritual support, the mental support, the verbal support. And that's why a lot of relationships go to the left. How long you guys have been married now?
We're in our third year.
Oh, beautiful.
In our third year. It's been a journey, without me going into details, but we know in the midst of it that God hand is on us.
Absolutely.
In the marriage. It's not perfect. It's a lot of work, but we're working things out. We're working through things. And then we're working in ministry together. So.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But this is what we need to see. We need to see, even though there were tremendous obstacles, and as we touched on, there were some losses, some tragic losses, but still throughout all of that, you guys made a promise to each other that we're going to tackle whatever comes our way. We're going to tackle it together. We're going to face it together. Amen. Because it's us against it. Not that's your problem. You fix it. Or that's your problem. You fix it. And so we need to see more of this dynamic, because a lot of the times the examples that are painted in society, those stars that we see in the entertainment industry, that's all for show. They're acting in front of the camera and behind the camera. And usually the truth, when it comes out, I remember some years ago, you would hear a lot of people say, I want that Will and Jada kind of love. I don't hear that anymore. I wonder why. Can somebody, well, let me leave that alone. But anyway, bring us up to 2023 and let the people know how to get your book. What's the title and everything, and what else you have going on in your life besides the ministry and everything. What are we looking forward to seeing?
So fast forward into 2023, I say this wholeheartedly: heal, 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 heal healthy. Trauma is real.
Absolutely.
Childhood trauma, adult trauma is real. But I tell you, do not run from therapy. Do not run from, if you gotta do medication for a little while, that's a choice that you do, but I would pray first, even when you go through that, pray, because the doctors could give you something that might not be good for your health and cause addictions. So I would say, talk to somebody. Don't walk around all broke up, bitter and angry. Seek some healthy healing. And I thank God for my husband, because even through my toughest parts of my life, he was there. Absolutely. He helped pray me through. Even when I lost my son, that was a tough part. And even with his losses, we learned how to maneuver through that stuff together. But we thank God we had a good support system. Absolutely. People that pray with us. We didn't try to be a super pastor and super pastor wife and super mom and dad. We realized that we are human. There's a human side to this stuff.
Absolutely.
And you got to deal with you. And if you don't deal with you and your mess and all your stuff in your closet, you're going to be toxic to people.
Absolutely.
So that's what my book is, From Hood to Harvest. And that's what From Hood to Harvest is saying. Yes, I went through all this stuff. I went through rape. I went through molestation. I went through abuse. I went through a divorce. I went through losing my son when he was 17, him being murdered, me being shot, all this stuff I've been through in my life, me not having my mama, not having my daddy, mama issues, daddy issues. So I went through all this stuff. But on the good side of that, look at what God has done.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So you mean to tell me that you can come from that and not be who God says you are? I just share with you that he can, if you allow him. Don't allow what you have been through your life to deter who God has created you to be.
Amen.
And let that be a testimony. Oh, yes. Share it the right way, because there's certain stuff that you just can't share with the world.
That's right.
You got to share individually, but let your life be a testimony and help somebody. Don't isolate. Don't give up. Because please, if you give up, we'll never know what God has brought you through. Don't give up. And don't conceal. Because if you conceal, you won't heal.
Amen.
Yes.
I'm loving it. So I just want to thank everyone for tuning in to Hidden Gems. Thank you, Pastor and First Lady McNeill.
Yes.
I could say so much more, but I'm not going to. You guys have a blessed evening.